Joe Manchin ran to Fox News after the election to assure them that no change is coming to America. He told them that he's definitely against eliminating the filibuster. He said he's definitely against expanding the Supreme Court, which, again, would mean it's a 6-3 conservative court, which means the only change we get is change that they allow. And they would say a lot of stuff is unconstitutional. That's basic progressive change, basic positive change. So he said those things, and then he went on to say this.
I voted for Amy Coney Barrett for the 17th Circuit. I'm not going to break precedent. So if I can take that type of pressure, if I can vote for Brett Kavanaugh, the only Democrat, if I can take that type of pressure, you don't think that I can basically justify what I'm going to be doing and how I'm going to vote, knowing that I'm sitting in the seat that Robert C. Byrd held, who wrote the rules of the Senate? This is an institution
and you wouldn't become a Republican.
You don't need, whether you're D or not, right. I'm a proud, moderate, conservative Democrat. Maybe there's not many of us left, but I can tell you this country wants a moderation. This country, you run your life, you run your business from the middle, not from the fringes. And that's where I've always been. So for something, whatever the message was, it was wrong for this many people to be split, for us not to be able to have a message that didn't scare the bejesus out of people. And when you're talking about basically Green New Deal and all this socialism, that's not who we are as a Democratic Party. It's not how I was raised in West Virginia. It's not the Democrats I know. But yet we've been tagged. If you have a D by your name, you must be for all the crazy stuff, and I'm not.
Don't you love it how Democrats completely agree with Republican framing on left-wing ideas?
Okay, so Joe Manchin is a weird case because if he wasn't so conservative, then there's no shot of the Democrats having a Senate seat from West Virginia. And it's one of those situations in which would you rather have a Democrat from West Virginia who's very conservative and will vote with you on some issues, or not have a Senate seat from there at all? I mean, you could say you don't want Democrats within the party hurting progressives and, slandering them. But, when it comes to the issues, I mean, Joe Manchin, in order to balance the budget, do you support an income tax increase on any tax bracket? No, he doesn't. He's not for that. He's definitely for more war funding. He supports regulating campaign finance. He supports federal spending as a means of promoting economic growth, which is good. He doesn't support lowering corporate taxes. He also doesn't support raising them, which is, whatever. Do you support requiring states to adopt federal education standards? Yes. Do you support government funding for the development of renewable energy? He says yes for that, but he's not for, the Green New Deal. He wants to achieve energy independence and phase out fracking, but it's not going to be nearly what is necessary for the moment. Do you support the federal government regulation of greenhouse gas emissions? No. Terrible. Do you support gun control legislation? Yes. Do you support repealing the Affordable Care Act? No, he doesn't support that. He does support the wall. He does not support immigrants. He does not support requiring them who are unlawfully present to return to their country of origin before they are eligible for citizenship. So he's better on the immigration issue. It doesn't know where he is on marijuana. I'm not sure. But yeah, and he doesn't support more Middle Eastern conflicts. I said before he did. So there are some trade-offs here. I mean, it's mostly bad stuff, but in general, you have a Democratic seat in the Senate that wouldn't be there without him being so conservative. If there was a Democrat even somewhat more to the left of him, trust me, he's not getting elected in West Virginia. West Virginia is essentially central Pennsylvania if it was a state. Or, the most conservative parts of Ohio, or, West New York. If that was a state, you'd get West Virginia. This place is all rural. It's all old coal towns, all, the Rust Belt. This is the definition of Rust Belt in West Virginia. And without Joe Manchin being this shitty, then we just wouldn't have a seat there. So it's really a trade-off you have to be able to make. And, it's a strategic thing, of course.
Don't you love that? This guy's a Democrat. By the way, I don't remember the exact number, so don't quote me on this, but
and he's also pro-life.
Was it 538? I think 538.
Which is bad.
Was it 538? Whatever. One of these websites has a counter of, how often people vote with Trump. If I'm not mistaken, Joe Manchin was over 50%, may have been over 60% of the time he votes with Donald Trump.
So Joe Manchin is an incumbent. And if he switched to Republican, Democrats would lose a lot of votes on things like the ACA, and things like immigration issues, when it comes to pushing for more wars, when it comes to raising taxes or lowering taxes. So like it's a trade-off. It really is.
West Virginia Democrat.
Yeah, West Virginia. Yeah.
And in his mind, he thinks the way that I show I'm a serious person is to be more corporate, be more pro-establishment.
No, he's being more conservative. We can't just simplify and dumb down everything to establishment. This is my big criticism of Kyle Kulinski. Not everything is simply establishment corporatism versus not corporatism. This guy is being conservative. He literally is representing his base. Like, West Virginia is one of the most conservative. I think it might be the most, other than like the Nebraska and like Idaho and all those states. It's definitely the most conservative state on the East Coast, or not the East Coast, but this region.
As if like West Virginia, the people in West Virginia only want their congresspeople and their senators and their politicians to be more corporate and more corrupt.
No, more conservative. You're missing a key identifier here for why people vote for him. They don't vote for him because he's a corporatist.
No, I'm pretty sure that the West Virginia Democrats, I'm sure on social issues, they probably are conservative. They're probably pro-gun. They're probably anti-abortion. But on economic stuff, there's a rich labor history in West Virginia. They want hardcore lefties on economic stuff. Now, they might not realize it's...
Okay, his political analysis here is they might not realize it. They definitely want far-left policies. This is not the way to evaluate, the political thermometer, the political temperature of a region.
That it's a left thing, but yes.
I agree we should be pushing these policies forward. But we should also be able to evaluate the situation in an objective way, in my opinion.
And protecting the rights of workers, these are left ideas. These are social democratic ideas.
True.
So really, if Joe Manchin was representing the people of West Virginia, he would be probably conservative on social issues, anti-abortion, pro-gun, but he would be one of the furthest left on economic issues among the Democrats.
That's not how that works.
He would be insanely pro-union. He would be pro-universal health care, Medicare for all. He'd be pro-free college and a living wage and things of that nature. Instead, he's just the one who agrees with Republicans the most. He brags. He says, I voted for Amy Coney Barrett for a lower court. He didn't for the Supreme Court, thank God. But
yeah, Joe Manchin seems pretty pro-union.
The reasoning he said was, the process. The process has been muddled. We've never done it with this little time left before the election. So in other words, he made McConnell, he stuck by the McConnell rule. In the last year before an election, you don't put a Supreme Court justice on. So that's why he did what he did. But he voted for Brett Kavanaugh. He voted for Neil Gorsuch. These are insanely conservative justices.
True.
He describes himself, I'm a moderate conservative Democrat. He goes, moderate conservative Democrat.
He just said the two big issues for him that, off of Kyle's analysis, he says the two big issues for his constituents are probably abortion and gun rights. And he doesn't understand why Manchin is voting for extremely conservative judges.
And then he takes his shots at Green New Deal and socialism. This isn't who we are. This isn't the Democratic Party. I know. Green New Deal bad. Socialism bad. This fact I will keep repeating until I'm blue in the face and dead. FDR was our social democratic president. FDR got elected 4 times. He was so popular, the country couldn't stop electing him. He was so popular.
Okay, we can't just ignore the war going on, and we can't ignore, the time period it's in. We can't just always compare the 1940s to the 2020.
Republicans came up with term limits to say, if we don't have term limits, we might never beat these guys. Because the American people love them, because they keep helping them. They keep doing good things. The New Deal is socialism. And this guy's, there's no history of socialism in the Democratic Party. Green New Deal, gross. Remember that New Deal? Remember the New Deal and how wildly popular and successful it was? This is what we're trying to do with the Green New Deal. Not Tim running away from it at 1,000 miles an hour. And I love, again, the casual framing of the right. People think because you have a D by your name, you must be in favor of all these crazy things. Well, I'm not. What do they consider crazy things, man? And listen, this is where I'm a little different from others in that I do make a distinction between the social issue stuff and the economic stuff. I do think that running on something like defunding the police or abolishing ICE is not going to work. And I do have questions on the substance of that as well. Now, that's another conversation for another day, but point is, notice the trick. Notice what they've done. Not in this clip necessarily, but I've seen it in others where they lump in stuff like abolishing ICE and defunding the police, and they throw it in with Medicare for all, for example. They throw it in with free college. They throw it in with a living wage or a Green New Deal.
Yeah, and we have to be able to differentiate certain things. I mean, when the same candidates who advocate for M4A also advocate for abolishing ICE and free college and the Green New Deal, they're going to be tied to these issues as radicals. And it's up to us to sell these issues as mainstream things.
And it's like, no, these are actually, they're not the same thing. And some of these things poll over 70%, over 80%. They're incredibly popular. But Manchin runs away from all of it. And just so everybody understands, the message he's sending right now is, under a Biden presidency, nothing will get done through the Senate. That's the message he's sending.
True.
He's telling Republicans, relax, I'm pretty much with you. Every now and then I might not be, but the overwhelming majority of the time, I'm with you.
But on issues like immigration and on issues like healthcare, it would be better to have him in rather than an actual Republican. Or if he made his DNR and decided just to vote with the Republicans on literally every issue, that'd be a lot worse at this point. Again, it's not the same. Like if he was a Democrat in Oregon or like, I don't even know, maybe even like Pennsylvania, that'd be a big issue. But West Virginia, are you kidding me? Oh my God. You obviously were never at West Virginia if you don't know why he's representing them.
That whatever good Joe Biden gets done, and it's questionable just how much good he even wants to get done, because ideologically he's not with me. He's a moderate Republican ideologically. To the left of Joe Manchin, but not crazy to the left of Joe Manchin. The most good he'll do is through executive orders. The most good he'll do is that path. I don't see much getting through the House. I don't see much getting through the Senate.
Okay, so in 2016, Bernie Sanders won West Virginia against Hillary, 120,000 popular votes to 86,000 popular votes. So he won by around 40,000.
Because this is Joe Manchin telling everybody, relax. Nothing will fundamentally change. That's the argument. He's making the Biden argument. Remember when Biden said that to a bunch of donors? Guys, relax. Nothing will fundamentally change. That's what he's doing here. That's exactly what he's saying here. Nothing's going to fundamentally change.
Republicans outnumber Democrats in the state around 4-1 or 3-1. So, although most Democrats in West Virginia would prefer a populist, if you run as a progressive, it's going to be much, much harder to get elected as a result that you need. What if Republicans have 550,000 votes and Democrats have 200,000 votes? That's like 3-1. Then how do you get elected if you don't get enough of those Republican votes? So Joe Manchin, it sucks, but he's a product of the current system.
Filibuster is going to stay intact. We're not adding seats to the court, so it's going to be 6-3 conservative.
Sucks. Really?
I voted for Brett Kavanaugh. I voted for Gorsuch. I'm a moderate. I'm a conservative. I'm against Green New Deal. I'm against socialism.
Who's that
when
one
Republicans
lady
win, they get Republican policy implemented. When Democrats win, we get Republican policy implemented.
True.
And you wonder why the left is so frustrated. Especially knowing the history. Knowing that it wasn't always like this, guys. It was not.
Yeah,
FDR got stuff done. Even LBJ got stuff done. They got stuff done. Now we have, these people rolling over in their graves. Because we've had the Bill Clinton era.
I don't know about that.
The Barack Obama era, where it's half measures on top of...
The Democratic presidents who did get stuff done, LBJ, FDR, they had the most extreme public pressure in American history. The political momentum of the time forced them to do that. I mean, we've had nothing similar to that in a long time.
The half measures, because these guys are also corrupt.
But in order for Democrats to do that, they need to be in power. So a Democrat needs to be in power during COVID, or a Democrat needs to be in power during civil rights protests in order to hold their feet to the fire, which was my argument for voting Biden, because I want him to be in the line of fire when he messes up. I want him and the Democratic Party to look bad and progressives to look good with the solutions.
Corrupt and corporate. And so they think triangulating is correct. And they substantively, they like triangulating. They like being moderate Republicans. So here we are. Now we have a moment in history where it's completely incompatible with corporatism and neoliberalism. Completely incompatible. We need fundamental, radical change in this country.
Yeah, we do.
We need universal health care. We need a jobs program and an infrastructure deal. We need a Green New Deal to fight back against climate change. We have so many crises happening right now.
Although Biden's $2 trillion plan is basically top tier when it comes to global goals, being carbon neutral by like 2050 is decent. It's not the best. Like France and Germany have similar goals. They're doing a little bit better.
30% of the country can't pay rent.
But I mean, we need to get that passed first, and we don't know if that's going to be able to get through.
Mortgage. And
probably
soon
not.
They'll be able to be evicted, foreclosed on.
True.
And this is the kind of Democratic Party that we're looking at. The one that signals we're going to basically agree with the Republicans. Ever since the money got into the system, this is the way the Democratic Party functions. Ever since
it's not that simple. That is a big issue, but boiling everything down to just money in politics really does a disservice to our strategy. He literally represents exactly what his base wants. I know people from West Virginia who are Democrats. They sound worse than Joe Manchin. We can't boil everything down to money in politics. We have to know what these demographics exactly are, how to attack it. If you're a progressive, run on being pro-gun. And the abortion issue is very difficult to get past, but we can't keep on acting like it's simply just money in politics.
1970s.
Politics, yeah, politics are local. Yeah, the state legislatures are a huge issue. But I never hear any political commentators talking about that. The 2022 state houses, the ways those switch, I think that that might determine the election in 2024. If we can't leave a big imprint in 2022 when it comes to state houses, local politics, I don't think we have a chance in 2024. Like we approach politics like some type of reality TV show.
Early 1980s with the Supreme Court decisions that ruled.
Well, Red Roger, I disagree. I don't want that, but. It is known after a president's first term, midterm elections always swing against them. So that's why Trump lost the House when his first term started. It's a pretty typical thing that happens. If you're a Democrat, you lose the House. Republicans take over. If you're a Republican and you become president, you usually lose the House and Democrats take over.
Money equals free speech, and now you have corruption all throughout the system. It used to be the Democrats really only took lawyer money and union money.
Yeah, Kyle's talking like this is a national election.
And then they started taking corporate money after those decisions. And we haven't had a moment of relief since where you felt like the Democrats were actually fighting for you.
And Joe Manchin votes in favor of campaign finance regulation.
Haven't had a moment of it. And it's a nightmare. And now you see Joe Manchin already waving the white flag, already signaling to Republicans, I kind of agree with you.
He always did.
That's the whole point
never
of the
even
segment,
pretended to be
Republicans
progressive.
know I'm on
He
your
never
side.
pretended to be a progressive in his entire life.
I'll never get over the fact that the Republican Party, the Democratic Party...
His top industries that he has are these investments, securities and investments, lawyers and law firms.
And the media all try to make us feel crazy simply for saying... Let's catch up to the rest of the developed world and have everybody health care.
Campaign committee financing, 2015 to 2020, $9 million. Spent 8.5, cash on hand 2.
And give everybody health care and make it free at the point of service. They try to make you feel crazy for saying, I want a living wage.
Yeah, so he gets lawyers, real estate, security.
Or I want a jobs program. Or I want to end the wars.
Large individual contributions, $5,000 is 58%. Of what he raised. PAC contributions is 30%.
Make you feel crazy for that. You're not the crazy one. They're the crazy ones. And they're the corrupt ones. And eventually some action will be taken because we can't let this continue. At some point people will get so fed up that we will have a general strike and we will protest for all those.
I could tell he's on Twitter 24/7. He has the exact political scope of someone on Twitter. Strikes can definitely happen at a local level, shutting down different shipments of orders. Like if, oh my God, if truck drivers stopped driving for one day, the entire country would fall apart. That's such power right there. A general strike shouldn't be the goal. Class solidarity and unions should be the goal. Not all this frickin' talk about these grand revolutionary Twitter ideas. Politics is local. We need to be able to connect with people locally. We can't keep on looking at everything as a national election. Like, oh, why is Joe Manchin elected in West Virginia? It's because he's corrupt. It's not that simple.
For all of those things that we know are the answers.
And he is corrupt, but...
For all of those basics that should be the case in a developed country. We should be a thriving social democracy. Eventually, the population is going to snap and say no more. And we'll fight back because this status quo is certainly unsustainable.
Okay, Kyle, you always do this. What political activism does Kyle do? Like, I hate when people use this against me, but he's like, we're going to fight back. Eventually, people are going to get tired. They're going to fight back. Like, what do you mean fight back? What, post another angry video to YouTube? How about you cover some local state races? How about you cover some state races in any state? How about you cover local, who's going to be a judge in a county somewhere? Who's going to be on the state senate? Who's going to be in the state treasury? Who's going to be attorney general? Why do you have to only focus on politics through a reality TV show lens of like national politics and whatever's on Fox News and CNN that day? This is much bigger than this. Activism goes deeper than the surface here. It's really frustrating, but what are you going to do? I was supposed to stream at 10 a.m., but I decided to hop on now for you 6 people. I don't know who you 7 people are, but cool. All right, so 4 a.m. stream. I want to do some policy stuff. Destiny does an article segment where he goes over different policies and judges them, and different news stories that day. This one's titled Trump's Proposal Mocked by Republican and Democrat economists, but he mocks Bernie and Clinton too during this. Yeah, Kyle Kulinski's in the business of generating clicks, not fomenting activism. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's whatever. It's what happens. Like, people like me never get popular on YouTube or whatever. The only people who are, like, really, really critical are, like, Destiny that get up there. Like, the people who get popular on sites like this are I guess you could say, like, Pac-Man and Sam Cedar are they're pretty milquetoast. They're pretty, like, moderate, pretty relaxing. But if you have critical takes, it's so hard to get a following because... people love speaking or like listening to their own echo chamber and, not having any ideas challenged. Like if I literally every video just said Medicare for all, literally every video. I mean, that's such an easy way to do politics, but I'm trying to get deep into the dirty part of it. But